I think what happened here is they accidentally sold me the gun that was supposed to go to Tim at Military Arms Channel. Okay, this is how it comes. It doesn't get much simpler than this. The new P365 XL comes with two 12-round magazines that you see there. Sorry if you hear squeaky noises in the background. That is just Tyler doing dog things. So as we expect, there's really no big surprises here, I don't think. Looks and feels very much like the P365. Slightly larger. We have a longer grip. And of course we have a longer slide and barrel. The other key difference is that it is cut for an optic. So we have the removable rear sight and optic plate, which will reveal the mounting spot for an optic. Now I believe there are only a couple of optics that will fit it, and probably of those there's probably only one that really exists, because one is the Romeo Zero, I think, and that one is probably right now still vaporware. So we shall see. When I can get a hold of one, I probably will, and I'll definitely try it out. The other big story, of course, is the magazine. So now we have a 12-round standard magazine. Now the disappointing thing for me is that I have a lot of magazines for my P365, and it's disappointing to me, to say the least, that I can't use any of them with this gun here because they're not compatible. They don't fit, and that is almost entirely due to the base plate. So, for example, just for contrast, here is the 10-round magazine for the P365 next to the 12-round magazine for the XL. Makes sense, right? Here's the 12-round magazine for the P365 next to the 12-round magazine for the XL, and you can see that there's no way you're going to get this one into the pistol because of this base plate, but it looks like the box is probably identical. So if you were to switch out the base plates, if you were to just be able to buy a bunch of flat base plates, probably could take some or all, if you wanted, of your 12-round magazines that you might have for your P365. If you're like me, I got a bunch of them, and you can make some of them or all of them compatible with this gun. Now that leaves last this 15-rounder. This is the new 15-round magazine for the P365, and again, that base plate makes it so that it will not fit. You can see extreme difference there on where it's going to stop and want a seat. So once again, if we were to change out this base plate, either to just a flat one or maybe one that's a shorter extension base plate to fit this gun, and I can almost bet you, if I was a betting man, I would be putting money that SIG will certainly have these 15-rounders available with a different base plate to fit this gun. So that's the story on magazines. I'm just pouting and crying a little bit because, you know, I'm going to have to do all my work with 2 magazines instead of the 20 that I own. So while test driving this thing a little bit at the gun shop, while paperwork was being processed and so forth, I was doing some dry firing and I was racking the slide, and I noticed something interesting, and I asked my buddy who owns the gun store to come over and check it out, and he was able to see or feel, experience the same thing. So watch this. Run the slide, right? Yep. Run the slide. Run the slide. Okay, now let's do a dry fire. Now I'm going to hold the trigger back like we would if we wanted to test the reset. That thing is locked up tight. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't want to move. And you know, initially I thought, holy cow, what is going on? What am I not doing right? Now if I put extreme pressure, and I mean extreme, I can break it loose, I think. Yep, there we go. Alright, but that is extremely tight. Now if I dry fire again, and try it again, same thing. Man, it is locked up. Oh, really tight. Anybody else seeing this? Anybody else seeing this with theirs? So knowing what I know, which is very little about anything, but what I do know is that if your slide action isn't working very well, you're going to have a good chance for some malfunctions with a gun. I mean, even if you're just, riding the slide with your thumb, a lot of times you can retard the action enough to cause malfunctions. So with that incredible issue going on there, I can't help but wonder, is this thing going to ever shoot more than one round at a time? This might be a single shot pistol. We'll find out. Now I'm not going to just take it out and see. I'm going to take this thing down. I'm going to field strip it. We did that at the gun store. We actually we looked at the recoil spring and guide rod to make sure it was seated correctly and didn't look like it had any issues, which it was, and it didn't. But I'm going to take it down again. I'm going to look real close. Okay, let's compare the slides of the P365 original to the P365 XL. I'm sure you can tell which one's which, but just in case, the one on the top is the P365 and the bottom is the XL. They are identical in every way that I can see from a design and mechanical perspective, except that obviously when we get to here, this one continues and this one does not. But you can see that even inside the slides up at the front, at the muzzle end, the design is really identical, and it's just literally a continuation here. Alright, now here are the two frames. This is going to be a little more challenging, particularly from this bird's eye view, if you wanted to tell one from the other, because there really isn't any length difference. And they are also absolutely identical in every way that I can see, and not just to my naked eye. I have been all over these things with a caliper and the measurements are within 1 or 2 thousandths everywhere, which I'm sure is tolerance. The only difference cosmetically or visually is that the new XL has this slightly extended beaver tail, whereas the original P365 does not. So that adds a little bit of length here to the back of the pistol, but in every other way identical, absolutely identical, and like I say, right down to within a couple of thousandths on everything. Now there are some differences when we start looking down here. See, the trigger is different. The trigger shoe is straight on the XL, and it is the curved version on the P365. P365 that I've been carrying for a year or more has a rubber Talon grip on it. This one does not yet, but it will soon enough. If you want a really good side-by-side look at the two frames, there they are. Not much difference. Obviously this one is taller. Now, if we turn them this way, you can see a significant difference. A significant difference. See how much wider we get at the bottom. There is a molded mag well on the bottom of the XL. And it is, you can see when you look at the two straight down, it is a substantial difference in width right there at the bottom. So where we have this notch for our magazine base plate on the P365, we do not have that here because that has been replaced by that mag well. And that mag well is part of the frame. It is a one-piece mold, so that's just part of it. What else? Mag release button is the same. Slide stop, slide release is the same. Takedown is the same. Everything identical. I saw this problem right out of the box in the gun store with this gun. if I were not a guy who did gun reviews, I probably would not have brought this gun home. I would have said, no thank you, you can keep this one. I think, if I had been, if I were smart, and like I say, if I was not a guy who does gun reviews. Because here's the thing. Run the slide. Doesn't feel too bad. I mean, for a brand new gun, it's a little hesitant, it's a little tight and a little bit gritty. But it runs. Now, we dry fire. I'm going to hold the trigger to the rear. And that sucker is locked up tight. I mean tight. I can break it loose, but it's not easy. And once I do, it's right there, there's a resistance point. But once I've broken it loose the first time, it's a lot easier every other time until I fire again. So we let the trigger reset, and now right back to that tight lockup. Now I have looked pretty thoroughly inside the slide and the frame, and I am not seeing any apparent cause for that. I don't know. Just to compare, here's the P365, the old one. See, that's how it's supposed to work. Hold the trigger back, and the slide should easily run. So if I was not sharing this experience with you, I probably would not have brought the gun home, number one. And if I did, and I was still seeing what I'm seeing now, I would probably, be sending an email or making a phone call to SIG Sauer and saying, look, this isn't gonna work. But because I do share my experiences with you, I'm going to try it. I'm going to take it to the range, and I'm going to try it. And I got a funny feeling that, at least initially, this is going to be a one-shot pony. I cannot imagine that that's going to want to run. So I don't know, and I don't see any reason for it. Like I say, I stripped it completely down and inspected and measured thoroughly, and I don't see anything that's apparent to me for this. And then while I was at it, of course, I cleaned it and lubricated it really well, so it's got nice, clean, fresh oil and all that. So I don't know, guys. I don't know. This is going to be very, very interesting. All right, I know somebody's going to ask, so here's the answer. Yes, you can swap the slides and the frames so that you can have a P365 X, sort of, with the tall 12-round frame and the short P365 slide. That's the configuration right here. Right, so we got the old slide on the new frame, basically, and you can do the opposite, or the inverse of that. You can put the long slide on your short 10-round. So this, Peter Brady moment there, this may actually be an attractive option to people who wind up owning both pistols. And I think there'll be a lot of people who do wind up owning both pistols, because now you've got that concealability of the shorter height, and we all know this is probably the most important dimension in concealed carry. I don't care where you carry, but you still have that long slide for a longer sight radius. So the answer is yes, you can do that. You can make your own little Franken 365s if you want to. Okay, so I've decided to present this in two parts because talking about this slide locking issue has eaten up a whole lot more time than normally would be part of a regular first 100 or even a full review. So I have not yet shot the gun, and I plan to do that very soon. Hopefully it will just run, which will probably leave me scratching my head a little more, because I will be very surprised if my first round doesn't result in a stovepipe And I will be even more surprised if it feeds and chambers the second round. So I will bring you the range test video just as soon as I can. Might take me a week or so, but I'll bring it to you quick. I think what happened here is they accidentally sold me the gun that was supposed to go to Tim at Military Arms Channel, because I think I got the broken one.